with our good buddy Roger Wallace, joining us from Austin, Texas. First of all, Roger, this is a men's team that feels to me almost like a bit of an enigma. Like they're good games, really solid. They go to Bama, they get a big win, nice little winning streak. Go down by 14 points to Oklahoma, come back and win it. After you broke that game down, what were some of the things that really stand out about this team and some of the things that Coach Sean Miller is implementing here in SEC play?
Well, the simple answer, guys, is because Sean Miller says we can foul the S out of teams. Is they didn't. Oklahoma shot 16 free throws
Right
after Auburn shot 39 last week. So that's a pretty easy answer right there. You give them less free chances. But they got some guys that stepped up that they really needed to. Simeon Wilcher, the transfer from St. John's, I think they expected more out of him, and he's kind of been struggling. And he hit a couple of big threes, and then Jordan Pope got going after struggling in the first half. And, I mean, he's a knockdown shooter, but as a point guard, they need him to do that. There are some point guards that can, affect the game in so many different ways. His first way to affect the game is to knock down shots. And then Dalen Swain's just a kind of a unique guy, his ability to score. And Oklahoma, you kind of get the feeling that their minds got the best of them once Texas erased that lead, because they've been struggling so much since their first SEC game that they won. And so probably that also played into Texas's favor. It's kind of like, here we go again. But yeah, that was a big win for this team. If you follow the projections, they're right on the cut line. So that would have been a bad loss. Turns out to be a decent win. Now they come home for two. And really, if they can't take care of these two this week, they're going to be right back where they started.
Yep.
Just struggling to stay around 500. They get South Carolina on Tuesday, and then Chris Beard and LSU, or Ole Miss rather, come in Saturday. So two teams below them in the standings. But it's just a team with a margin for error that's not that big. So they've got to do a lot of things well. And Miller said we're not a very good defensive team, and we don't turn people over. That's a bad combination. But played well in the second half, really towards the end of the first half, and then in that second half.
You talked a little bit about Dalen Swain. What is the most impressive aspect of his game, in your opinion?
The way he can score in so many different ways. In some respects, he's kind of a throwback, because now, it's three-point shooters, or, they're at the rim. And he does a little bit of everything. He's got great body control. He's got a great left. He finishes with his left as well as anybody I've seen this season. He's big. He's about 235 now and 6'7". But I just think the way he can score in so many different ways. Now, he's had a propensity for backing up big games with struggles. And so that's, one of the things they're looking for. He had the big game against Auburn, looked like he might struggle a bit against Oklahoma, then got things going. But he's just a scorer, and that's kind of a throwback in some ways, because he can do it in so many ways. And when he shoots a three, that's probably the biggest surprise. And usually you got to leave him open. He's not going to create a three. He's more of a standstill three-point shooter. But he's added that, so that makes it tough. You come out on him, and he can get to the rim against anybody.
Absolutely. Jordan Pope's a guy that has been talked about a lot because, yes, he can score, but it seems to me he's almost like a volume guy, a volume scorer overall. Where have you been the most impressed with him in SEC play and kind of his trajectory as he plays that kind of that second guy with Swain?
Well, I think the fact that he's an older guy keeps him from getting too down on himself when he's not scoring, because he knows that's such an important role, and we saw that in the second half. He was really struggling against Oklahoma, and then all of a sudden he hit a couple of big threes, and when he's going, he's such a rhythm shooter. You can almost see the way he shoots it and think this one's got a really good chance of going in, or vice versa. Sometimes you can tell maybe he's just shooting it because he's got an open look or thinks he has an open look. But like I said, he's not that typical point guard that affects the game in so many different ways, that he's got to be hitting shots to be effective, especially with a team. As I said, they're a really good offensive team, but their margin for error is so slim that they've got to have a lot of things going right. And Pope knocking down some threes. It's one of the most efficient offenses in the country. The problem is they back it up with some inefficiency on the other side. That's what narrows that margin for error.
Absolutely. Speaking of, you teed that up perfectly, Coach Sean Miller, talking about Pope's defense needing to improve.
Our offense has continued to stay consistent and improve incrementally. I think where we're at and how we finish will be determined by one thing, and that is whoever we are today defensively, we cannot be the same team in March. Cannot. We will not be able to get to where we want to get to by being a very good offensive team and a subpar defensive team. We improved through our performance at Oklahoma in large part because we did not foul. And it wasn't a great defensive performance, but it was better and it was on the road, and we have to grow and build. So if we can maintain our level and get better defensively, I think there's some really good games in our future. And I believe we can end up being in a good place.
So Coach Sean Miller basically talking about how, that his defense needs, his team's defense needs to improve come March. Well, speaking of March, it's a month away, and you talked about how this team is right there on the bubble. I believe Joe Lunardi had them as the very last team in. Are they still in the picture right now with this win?
Yeah, I think they have to be. And I don't know how much these two games can help them. Especially tomorrow night, but it certainly can hurt them if they lose. They close out. There you see the schedule, and right after that, I mean, that's the thing about this league, guys, and I'm sure you're getting it from all over the SEC, is that there doesn't appear to be that great team. Florida's starting to look like it. A&M's at the top of the standings, but just getting in the rankings. But man, you better be ready to go because they all seem to be that team. Texas is a great example of, you look at them, you go, oh, well, we can take care of them. Alabama probably was shocked what happened to them in Tuscaloosa, the way Texas have been playing. So, yeah, the league is not top-heavy great. It's just heavy. And so I think they're in good position if they can stay around 500. But they close with Florida in Austin and then at A&M that last Saturday. And so, who knows what kind of shape they'll be in going there, but that's going to be a tough 2-game stretch down the road. But, this team, they'll surprise you. It's funny. They've got 4 wins in the conference, and OU was the first one that wasn't ranked.
Right.
Yet they have 2 home losses to unranked teams at the time in Mississippi State and A&M. So that I don't think that's a Texas thing. I think it's more of an SEC thing, Rao, as opposed to last year we had all these teams talking about Final Four teams. I think this year you just have a lot of really good teams. Now, again, Florida's seemed to kind of kicked it into another gear right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Roger,
go ahead.
Does it sound like another conference that Texas used to be in where, it's not really top heavy, it's just heavy all across the board and any team can win basically on any night?
Yeah, especially when Kansas is a little more human.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some years, guys, when Kansas was so good that it was them and everybody else. And then Scott Drew got Baylor on a run. Lately, Texas Tech. Now, Houston's kind of taken the place of a powerhouse, in the new look Big 12. But yeah, for sure, it looks that way. And here, with these gigantic conferences too, it's such a grinder. Even though it's just 18 games, but you're not seeing a lot of teams twice. You just have to keep lining up against teams. And Miller talked today about South Carolina, and I'm sure despite their struggles, he's got a lot of worry. I think he has a lot of worry too, because his team has been consistently inconsistent.
Right.
And it hasn't mattered where they've played. So that's reason enough for concern, not thinking, just because you went on the road and beat OU that any of that matters on Tuesday night.
Absolutely. If 1 win over Oklahoma is nice, 2 wins is absolutely great. The women also got a big win over the Sooners. And unlike the men's team, this is a top 10 matchup, one of a few matchups for Texas in a row that will be against ranked opponents. But they stay number 4 in the polls. What'd you make of that big win yesterday as and Madison Booker and company got it done?
Yeah, and that's an OU team, one of the top scoring teams in the country.
Right.
And Verhulst had to hit a half-court shot to get to 24 in the first half. So they scored 46 in the second half. They were much better offensively. But again, we've talked about this before. Texas just kind of does different things to you with their defense. And there's no question they wanted to slow down Aaliyah Chavez, the fierce recruiting battle with Chavez with Oklahoma and Texas. Of course, she's from Lubbock, and I think they thought they were in really good position. Ironically, coincidentally, their Leah Crump, who's been battling injury, actually had 12 points and a couple of big threes. Chavez scored 11. Now, Chavez does a lot of other things. She has to handle the ball so much. But, Crump's a really valuable player for this team that's missed a lot of time with an injury that gives them a different dimension. The fact that they hit 5 threes and OU only hit 6, you would have thought that's the most unlikely of stats coming out of that ball game. It's a team that doesn't need to hit threes. But, their defense, I don't know if you saw some of the defensive plays down the stretch. Roy Harmon made an incredible play where she hits a jumper, steals the inbound, flying out of bounds, throws it back. Justice Carlton catches it, lays it in, 4 points. It takes it from 9, I think, to 13. So, they have some offensive challenges at times, even though they're one of the highest scoring team, but that's primarily because that defense leads to offense. They haven't turned teams over. They haven't had that turnover margin lately that they've had in the past. So I'm sure that's a concern for Vic Schaefer, as they're turning it over way more than he would like. But in the end, Booker hit some big shots, some answer shots when OU cut it. They got another big one Thursday night. LSU comes to town, so that'll be interesting to see round 2 in that round robin.
Before we move on to that one, it feels like we talk about Madison Booker every time we have you on, and she's definitely one of those anchor pieces for Vic Schaefer. But how impressed were you by Justice Carlton's performance, being able to step up as another scorer for him?
She's an interesting player because her demeanor is so kind of passive, yet she comes up with offensive rebounds. She has a great knack for the basket. But then she'll make some plays that'll get her right back on the bench, and make Vic Schaefer pull out what hair he has left. But she has a knack. She's only 6'1", maybe 6'2", but she plays bigger than that. She can stretch it out. She hit a 3 at the end of the quarter, but she's big. When she and Jordan Lee, they were the freshman class last year, and they were both highly regarded, and Lee kind of ascended a little bit quicker. Carlton had a fast start, and then kind of fell out of the rotation, because of some of the mistakes she made. And she still makes some of them, but she's so valuable because they need another productive big for this team to make a run, I think. And now, if she plays like she is, they haven't gotten a whole lot out of Brea Cunningham lately. Kyla Oldacre does her thing, but she's really valuable because they need more of a presence down low.
Absolutely. You mentioned that LSU game coming up, so there's only a really short time you can celebrate this win over Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry game, because LSU is coming up next. And for those that did not see earlier this season, LSU beat Texas earlier, 70-65. So what are some of the things that you need to see, or you would want to see, or Coach Schaefer wants to see from this team as they prepare to rematch with LSU in a top 5 game?
Well, first off, I think he wants his home court to be just absolutely electric, and it will be, because not just LSU, but who their coach is. And going back to the Big 12 days of Baylor with Kim Mulkey. So I think they're going to be ready to roll. It's a later start. It's an 8 o'clock start. But again, they just got to continue to play defense. LSU can match them athletically. They can get up and down the floor. They can pressure Texas just as well as Texas will pressure them. So I think they need to be efficient with the basketball and get off to a good start, and then let that crowd take over, because even the way they struggled down in Baton Rouge, it was a 5-point ball game.
Right.
So I'm sure that didn't do anything to hurt their confidence. It was the back end of that South Carolina on Sunday and then LSU on Thursday trip. But this will be a big one. Not to mention I think they're up to 5, right? So
yeah.
They've already beaten 2 and 3 and 10, and now they get 5. So the resume's pretty strong, even though they sit right at number 4. And if you look at the top 4, that's probably your top 4 seeds right now. And I always say the difference between 1 and 2 seed, I don't find a great difference as long as they get sent to the Fort Worth Regional. But yeah, this has a lot of meaning for a lot of reasons. And they've had a share of championships the last 3 years in the regular season. They lose this one, that's 3 losses, and all of a sudden it becomes a bit tougher to climb into a chance to get at least a piece of a regular season title. They
probably have a chance to obviously win the SEC tournament title. You mentioned Kim Mulkey, and that's part of the reason why I think that the energy will be in the building there at the Moody Center. For those that don't know, Coach Mulkey can be a polarizing person. What's their relationship like with Coach Schaefer and Coach Mulkey? Obviously, they compete for a lot of the same student athletes, a lot of the same players they have since Mulkey's early days. What's that relationship like? Is there one, professional? Is there any animosity? What's kind of beneath the surface there between those two coaches?
I think Kim Mulkey wants animosity with everybody, but this one I think is a little bit different because the coach that Vic Schaefer replaced, Karen Aston, was actually on her staff at one point, and then they kind of butted heads, and there was animosity. I don't think there's anything more than two really good coaches' animosity. Obviously, what Vic Schaefer did at Mississippi State certainly commands a lot of respect, and then beat him here last year, went to the Final Four. But Kim Mulkey likes to stir it up with everybody, and she'll trot out there on Thursday night and she'll eat it up. There'll be 10,500 on her, and she wouldn't have it any other way. But I mean, it's cliche, but she's so great for the game because we're talking about it, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody wants to see what she's wearing, and her antics on the sidelines are certainly memorable. But the bottom line is she gets teams to play, and look where Baylor is since she left. They're solid, but they aren't what they were, and LSU is what they weren't before she got there. So that says all about her coaching ability. But I think there's probably a lot of respect, not a lot of animosity. But Kim Mulkey doesn't need much of a reason to get irritated with anybody, including on her own side, I would imagine.
Exactly.
Just give Vic Schaefer the schedule, and then he'll get mad.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So bring up vendetta and all that stuff once again. Just in case we don't have you on before the Super Bowl, I want to know your early thoughts on Super Bowl 60 there between the Patriots and the Seahawks, and some of the ways that you think that will play out over there in Santa Clara.
I like Seattle. I like top to bottom what they have. I think. Sorry. I think.
I'm a Patriots fan, but I get it.
Yeah. No. I mean, I don't have any stock in it. I don't care one way or the other. But I kind of like what they have all around, top to bottom. Patriots have been living on the edge a little bit, and so it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to watching it without a rooting interest. I told you guys, about my Indiana, just the stress of all of a sudden them being good and what that toll that takes.
Yes.
So I'm relieved Sunday that I can just sit back and watch it at work and not really have much of an interest other than hopefully it'll be a really good game.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you because the last few years I've watched the Super Bowl just kind of just really passively, and then I forgot the intensity that comes with when you do have rooting interest with a specific team. It's terrible, especially when you go in knowing you're the underdog.
You get it all the time.
I know, but the thing is that now we're kind of in that underdog role, and I do feel like, hey, the Patriots seem to be playing with house money. Seem to be. So I mean, just seems like a.
You know what I'd do just to see the Cowboys in the Super Bowl? Like actually, just once.
That was my first year here, Patrick.
Oh wow!
Super Bowl, my first year here.
Wow.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I've
had
never seen
3 sports moments where if you could relive that moment, the kind of feeling you get like no other. Indiana 1987, they win the national championship. Keith Smart beats Syracuse.
Yep.
The Vince Young touchdown for different reasons. I was part of the broadcast. He ran right past me on the sidelines. I was a sideline reporter. And then that pick.
Yep.
The pick when all I was thinking was, I can't believe they're going to lose because of that offsides penalty. Back where they had to settle for a field goal, and the team that didn't commit penalties was going to lose for that. And when he picked it, it was, it's that moment where you would love to be able to bottle it, and when you're having a rough day, just be able to relive it. It was incredible.
I know, absolutely was. Roger, thank you so much for your time here on Southeast Sports Plus. Enjoy a worry-free Super Bowl this upcoming week, and some great basketball along the way.
Enjoy your stress.
Appreciate it.